you can to get these great quotes. I love that one, but it's true. Being a leader is a great responsibility, and so is being a manager. Now, an interesting thing is that we really debate whether we're leaders or managers. And I love it when I have a large room full of people and I ask, are you a boss? Are you a manager? Raise your hand. And some people will raise their hand. And I ask, are you a leader? Raise your hand. And there are people who are sure that they're one or the other. And that's why the session starts with this. Are you a leader or are you a manager? And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to show you the difference. We're going to talk about the competencies, and we're going to decide where you are on that, and maybe do a little self-assessment about where you think you should be. So as you can see here, Jennifer, you talked about styles. I changed this picture a little bit and put the disc graph up there. So if you've ever done this will be familiar to you. If not, just know it represents this. People are different. Whether you're a leader or a manager, your people are so important to what you do. And people have different styles. And it's natural. People have natural styles. I think the real challenge in being a leader or a manager is to recognize the different styles of the people that work for you and be able to push the right buttons at the right time for the right person. And that realization that those buttons are different from person to person. And that's why I really think this is a great representation with this picture, is to put the disc graph up there instead, because your style as a manager or leader is going to vary with the people that you manage. And it's so much about the people. And that's leadership at a higher level. When you recognize the different people that you have and recognize that you have to change your approach and your style, just like Jennifer was talking about, with the people that you have around you. We'll be talking about that throughout the series. But today I think we need to start with this question. What is the job of the boss anyway? I would assume that most of you are here because you're a boss, or you're thinking about becoming a boss, or, been charged with maybe being or you'll want to be a boss, whatever. What do you think is the job of the boss? And my challenge to you is, see if you can describe it in 7 words or less. Now, if anybody has an idea, let me see it in chat. What is the job of the boss in 7 words or less? Let me see if anybody's got any ideas on this. I ask myself if I'm a manager more than a leader, particularly when I get very task-oriented. The buck stops here. That's cool. I like that. I see Brittany typing. I bet she's going to give me a brilliant answer. Let's see. Get things done from Roseanne. Good. I like it. Presenting a clear idea and implement. Offer help. Okay. These are great. Thanks for participating. I'm going to show you my answer. You ready? I think it's really brilliant because it's my answer, but I think the job of the boss is simply this: to get the work done through others. And kind of what Roseanne said there, to getting things done, to get the work done through others. What I find is that many bosses struggle because they try to do too much themselves. They struggle because they don't really believe in delegation. Maybe they don't know the right way to do it. They are so worried about the buck stopping here, Jennifer, that they forget that the people around them are the ones that really should be doing all of this work. We're not bosses because we can do all of this by ourselves. If we could do all this by ourselves, we wouldn't need to be a boss. We could just do it all and let everybody else go home, right? But what we really need to be doing is making sure that we accomplish the mission of our organization, that we accomplish our vision with the people that we have. And that's the real job of the boss, is to get that work done through others. Make sense? We get more done with others. Absolutely. Absolutely. Many benefits to that. So next I want you to think about, being the boss, the fundamentals of leadership that you find to be most important. When I say to you, okay, Roseanne, what do you think are like the most important fundamentals of leadership? What would you say? Let me see in chat. What do you think? Most fundamental leadership responsibilities, what would they be? What comes to mind? What do you think about? Inspiration. Nice. Inspire people to work. Let's see if I get a couple others. Communication. Huge. Huge. You know, the truth is, there are so many. We could spend an entire hour just listing them all. Because if you've been a boss, you know, there's a lot of things about leadership that are really important. But today I'm going to show you, and throughout the leadership series, what I think are the 3 most important. But here's your challenge. Everything that you've been thinking of, maybe jot down some notes of all these things you're thinking about. As I show you this model, think about what you said. Will it fit into these 3 things? Because I've done many workshops with this live, and every time people, I mean, they'll give me 30 different fundamentals, and they always fit into one of these 3 categories. So let's see if yours do too. It's a simple model. I call it the CBA model. And here's how it works. When you conceive and they believe, we achieve. I know it sounds hokey, but it actually makes sense and works. When you conceive, you as the leader, you as the boss, set expectations, are clear on your vision, where we need to go, and you can get your people behind you to commit to what you believe so that everybody believes it's the best thing. When you work collaboratively to get their input and to get them their buy-in so that they really believe in what you believe in, when we all work on that together, then we can achieve. We can achieve our mission, we can achieve our results. So it's a really simple model, but when you think about it, a lot of the things that you think about in leadership fit in here somewhere. Communication kind of fits everywhere, Brittany. Communication should probably be this big circle around it, because if you have this vision, but you don't communicate it, if you're not clear on what it is, nobody knows, that's not going to work. And you have to communicate in order to get people to buy in to what you want to do. And even in the achieve circle, if I don't tell you what's going on, if I don't share the results, if I don't address problems through communication, we still have a big problem. So you hit a really big one. And I think inspiration is a lot the same, but inspiration is particularly heavy in believe, because we have to help our people to believe in what we're doing. We have to get their input to make sure we're on the right track so that we can all achieve the results that we want. So that's the model. And as I talk through this series, I'll be referring back to that model because that's really where everything fits in. Today, we wanted to start with the question of leader versus manager. And that's what we're going to focus on today. Many people are confused about the difference and which one they should be. Even worse, I talk to people who are leaders who feel really bad because they want to be managers. And probably the other way is more prominent. Managers who feel bad because they're not leaders. You know, I'm not a leader, I'm just a lowly manager, right? Well, I want to show you the difference in these. And I want to show you why each of those are so important and help you to decide by the end of this session, where do you fall in that? Are you a leader or are you a manager? What is your role? So first, we should clear it up with definitions, though, what you see as the primary difference. I mean, when you think about this, what do you think? What do you think is the difference? We know that a boss gets the work done through others. What about, how does that add up with leader versus manager? Any thoughts, leader versus manager? Anybody want to speak out? You can, if you just let me know that you want to speak out, you're willing to just say it or put it in chat. What do you see as the primary difference? Leaders inspire a vision. True. Okay. Well, to answer this question, went to my handy dandy dictionary, actually Google. You know, if you go to Google and say define management, it'll give you a definition, or define leader, it'll give you a definition. I see Brittany typing. Let me see what she's got to say here before I move on? Because so far she's been pretty spot on. She might have all the answers. I like that. I like that. Managers manage the idea. Yeah, I knew you'd probably come up with something brilliant. That makes me stop and think for a minute. That's pretty cool. Managers manage the idea. Let me show you the definitions. Let me show you what Webster says. Okay, so here's what my Google Webster dictionary says. Leadership, the ability to influence, inspire, right, Jennifer? Influence, motivate, and direct others to obtain desired objectives. Management, planning, organizing, leading, and controlling the people working in an organization and the ongoing set of tasks they perform. So when you think about that, would you agree? It sounds like managers by definition are kind of focused on tasks, where leaders by definition are more focused on people. You agree? Yeah, that's kind of how it goes. So, I wonder which one's better, you know? Would I rather be a manager or a leader? A lot of people think it's better to be a leader. It's a higher status. But we have a lot of people who just want to be managers because they don't want that leadership stuff. Which one do you think is better? Hopefully you're sitting there thinking, well, it depends. Because it truly does depend. There is a time to be a leader and there's a time to be a manager, because there are different competencies for each of those things. Yep, and both are needed. Absolutely right, Brittany. Both are needed. There are times when we've seen leaders who don't know how to manage. That can be disastrous. If somebody always has their head in the clouds, looking at vision, looking at the future, and have no ability to stop and see how to manage the work, that can be disastrous. But it can also be disastrous to have somebody who's such a manager that they have no vision, you know, that they're so concerned about tasks every day that they have no vision of the future and no hope for what's coming next, right? That can also be disastrous. So what we really hope for is that we have people who understand the difference, understand the different competencies between a manager and a leader, and can use whichever skill set is needed for that moment in time. That's kind of tough. I call that being a strategic leader. Let me say that again. What we're really hoping for is that we have bosses who understand both sets of competencies, the difference between being a manager and leader, and can use whichever skill set is needed at that point in time. See, the real struggle here is, like we just talked about, the definition. People versus tasks. And this is why leaders struggle. Because we have some leaders who think it's all about the people. Some leaders think it's all about the tasks. And when you go task versus people, not always a good result. Looking at this on a grid, like let's look at this like a graph. And let's just talk about how this plays out. Right here, let's say that you're not that excited about the people that work for you, but you're also not that concerned about the tasks that they perform. Well, you can imagine that's a really bad place to be. But you know what? There was a time in our history, 100 years ago, when that's exactly where we were. Maybe 110 years now. In 1912, there was a guy named Frederick Taylor. And he's known as like the father of scientific management. He was the first person that ever questioned productivity. How much are we producing and can we produce more? Remember that we came from agriculture, a large population of agriculture. And all of a sudden these people start coming to factories to work, to move us towards the industrial age. A little bit of history lesson here for you, you know, I'm sure you remember this. And as we moved into the industrial age and we started to bring people into factories, we didn't really care about the people, to tell you the truth, because we just had tasks that we needed to get done. There was no consideration for for people. There was no research on motivation or how productivity of people goes together, anything like that. It was like, to tell you the truth, even Henry Ford, who, the assembly line, had no regard for the people that worked with him, because the fact is that in his first plant, he had people working there from all over the world that were immigrating to the United States. He had people, there were over 70 languages, 70 different languages spoken in that plant. And nobody cared, because they didn't care what they had to say anyway. They didn't care about communication at all. It was all at that point about the task, making as many cars as they could in a time period. So in this situation, they were low on people. They didn't care. They were high on tasks. And it was years before we started even thinking about people. And to tell you the truth, it was probably World War II that kind of pushed us more towards caring about people when women hit the workforce. But today, we're worried about people. We're concerned about people. But not that many years ago, we had people, when we started to make the shift, which is a big result because of the service sector. And many of us now work in the service sector. We're not an industrial nation anymore. We're in services. We have somebody else do the industrial stuff for us, the manufacturing for us. But we kind of turned in the other direction too hard. And we had a lot of people who, it's all about the people. It's not so much about the task. Let's just take care of the people. Well, that's disastrous too. I mean, it's great to take care of people, but the thing is if people don't have a sense of purpose in their work, if they don't have a mission, then that doesn't turn out great in the long run, because they come to work with no real purpose. They lose interest. They're not challenged. Remember that the opportunity to be challenged, to learn and grow are the primary retention factors in the US. So if I'm not getting that, I'm not going to stick around. Which brings us to this one, high on people and high on tasks. That's what we're going for. We care about our people, but at the same time, we care about the tasks. We care about completing the mission. And that's exactly what we were talking about with the definition of management and leadership. You don't want to be just a manager and just focus on tasks, not worry about the people, which by definition managers do. You don't want to be just a leader where you're so focused on people in the future that you don't worry about the tasks, because pretty soon your company is collapsing because you may have no profit, right? You go in the hole. So you have to be high on people and tasks. That's a lot, right? But that's really what we're looking for, leader versus manager. So here's our goal. We want a boss who knows the difference between leadership and management and can employ both skill sets as needed. That's what I've been saying, right? We want them to understand both. Now, just a word of caution here. It is possible to get stuck. We have some leaders who are stuck in leadership land, as I call it, and we have some managers who are stuck in management land. Neither one of those lands is a very nice land to be in. Let me tell you a story about my pastor. We'll hope he's not listening. He's not my pastor anymore because he came to our church. It seemed like he had been in several small congregations and he moved around quite a bit. Nobody worried too much about that because, that's kind of typical of pastors. They move them around. But he was the most amazing leader maybe that I've ever met, as far as understanding vision and being like in the clouds with his thinking. He would come up with the most amazing ideas, seriously, and be able to put things together for us to help us to see where he was going and carry us with him on his vision. He was crazy cool in that way. What a leader. Problem we discovered as a congregation was they had absolutely zero management skills. How did we discover this? Well, the first indication was when he came in for a Sunday service, and the people who normally came in to turn on the lights and get everything ready for the service didn't come that day, and he didn't know how to turn on the lights. he wasn't even sure how to unlock the door. He had never thought about it. That was our first indication. But it kind of went down from there. He was not concerned about the budget. He was not concerned about any of the operational issues. And pretty soon we were in trouble. Even though we were like inspired by the guy and motivated by his vision, the church itself needed somebody to operate, we needed to watch the basic operations of the church. And nobody was, because he had zero management skills. That's not good. And pretty soon, before too long, he found himself moving to another church. And we started to wonder, is this why he's moving so much? Because the leadership aspect, it's great. For almost 2 years, we were just like blown away until we realized we're in major trouble because nobody's looking at the operations of the church. Small business, small church, right? So that's being stuck in leadership land. That's not necessarily a good thing. Neither is being stuck in management land. When people are stuck in management land, they're very concerned about everyday tasks. They're enforcers. They're making sure that what has to be done gets done, and they're on it. They're paying attention to the standards and making sure that people do what they're supposed to do. If you're stuck there, it can be a really depressing place to be because there's no future vision. There's no inspiration. You can't see what there is to look forward to. It's just day in and day out, making sure that people make widgets, tighten that bolt. Back in the 20s, employees came in and they tighten bolts all day long. You've seen, the Charlie Chaplin movies, like tighten that bolt, and we can't survive that way. We need inspiration. We need to look at what's coming next. We need to have vision. We need to be encouraged. So being stuck in management land is kind of depressing. So it's possible to get stuck, and not a really good thing to do at all. Bosses with both skill sets manage the operations of the organization at a much higher level of success. If you have both skill sets, you make better decisions. You see the big picture more clearly, and you're able to share that with other people. They sustain higher levels of performance over time. They welcome and even encourage feedback from all places, from everywhere, from all resources, all the time. And they get results. So what we're looking for are people who understand the difference between leadership and management and can use whichever skill set is necessary at that moment in time. Now, there are competencies, as I mentioned. There are competencies for leadership. There are competencies for management. And today, in the time that we have, I'm going to just show you a few of those and how they relate to the model. But I do want you to know that if you get the book that Jennifer was talking about and look at page 63 and 64, make a note, there's a complete list of those along with a self-assessment tool where you can decide whether you think you're maybe a little bit more of a manager or a little bit more of a leader. And the nice thing is when you can do that assessment and figure that out for yourself, then you have some real specific goals for yourself in thinking about how you might want to improve. If you're leaning way in management land, no wonder you're pressed. You got to find a way to employ someone to build up those leadership competencies. And if you're leaning way heavy in leadership land, then you got to look at those management competencies and know that you've got to use some of those too. This is a QR code for a direct link to Amazon.com where you can buy the book. If you've never used one of these, just hold your phone up to it and it'll come up on the screen, click it, and you'll be there at that on Amazon where the book is. So I'm going to show you some of these competencies. Like I said, there's 24 for each listed in the book. But let's go back to the model. Conceive, believe, achieve. And that's how we're going to kind of structure these competencies that we're going to look at today. But I think at this point, we're starting to understand the difference, right? Everybody feeling like they understand the difference between a leader and a manager and how we want to do both? Yeah, I want to tell you one more thing about this book. I struggled with the title of this book because I didn't want to call it Becoming a Better Leader. And I didn't want to call it Becoming a Better Manager because I want people to understand that a boss has to use both skill sets. So that's why it's called Becoming a Better Boss, because I didn't want to appeal just to manager, people who identified with being a manager or people who identified with being a leader. Being a better boss means knowing there are two different skill sets and I have to use the one that's right for that situation. All right, we have our conceive, believe, achieve model. When you conceive, they believe, we achieve. Let's start with conceive. With conceive, you have to know your role and you have to do your part. It starts with understanding your role. And this is a lot about self-awareness, this one. Before you put on your oxygen mask on a plane, they tell you to put on your child's, make sure everybody else has their oxygen mask before you put yours on. This is the same kind of concept. How can you effectively lead people if you don't understand yourself, what the vision of the organization is, the mission you're trying to accomplish, and the expectations that you have? You have to understand what you're asking before you go out and expect people to do it, right? So know what the vision is, what your goals are, what your expectations are. And remember, the definition of conceive is simply to bring a thought or an idea into being. Imagine. You have to know this before you can expect others to. So when we talk about conceive, we've talked about great leaders having that future vision, like my pastor. He was amazing. Great managers are focused on now. But you know what? There's a time and a place when you need each of these. For example, and I'm from Florida, and in Florida we have these little things called hurricanes. Whether it's hurricanes, tornadoes, whatever, some of these natural disasters that we have. I know you guys have your share of things too, wherever you are. We talk about hurricanes, we plan for them. If a hurricane is coming, here's what we should do. We should, this many days out, we should start packing up our stuff. We need to get our computers off the floor. We need to do this, we need to do that. We have like a plan and a checklist, and that's fine. And that's future vision as a leader, is knowing that this might happen, preparing for it, planning for it, being ready for it. But when it's 2 days away and that hurricane is coming to your door, it is not the time for a leader. It is the time for a manager to pull out that checklist and see, have we done what we need to do? Because this thing is coming in 2 days. Let's go. We have to focus on now. See the difference? So when we're in our leadership role, we're planning for what might happen for the future. But when we're in a management role, it's like, this is immediate. This is now. We have to complete this now. 2 days before the hurricane hits is not the time to sit down and have a meeting. Right? Now it's time to execute your plan. So that's the difference. So when you're leading at a higher level, bosses see the connection between the future and now, and they consider both of those in making decisions. They see the present, they see the future, and they keep progressing. Great leaders seek change, and great managers seek stability. Great leaders know that change is vital to the organization. If we're going to survive, we have to change. It's just a fact, right? Great managers understand, though, that even through change, there are times when we need some level of stability. When I think of what we just went through with COVID, I guess what we're still going through, I'll give you an example that comes to mind from that for me. Because in working with bosses during that time period, it was very interesting, the different perspectives as we were hit with this major change that none of us saw coming. Nobody knew, nobody ever imagined. Well, there were a couple of fiction movies that kind of predicted it, right? But we didn't know this was coming, that this was going to be a real thing. And so people responded differently. Some of the managers and leaders and bosses that I talked to told me, as far as meetings go, they had decided to cut the meetings because they wanted people to be able to concentrate and focus at home. They were going through enough, we don't need meetings right now. We'll just, communicate via email. Other managers said, every Monday at 11 o'clock we meet. Those are the ones that had it right, because that provided some level of stability for everyone who was going through this change. Some of them even did daily check-ins. So what we had here was a situation where there was change, and we were figuring out how to go through it. We were all going through it together, and we were doing Zoom calls and all these different ways. But we still had people who understood that I have to somehow provide some level of stability in all of this. And those were the most successful teams that I worked with, ones who had provided some method for incorporating some stability anyway, when everything was crazy, you know, style. And great managers rely on an analytical style. You know, some of us have a great gut, right? You can just make decisions from the gut, you know, you just know what's right. You just feel it. It's like, I'm going to go with my gut. You've heard that, you know, but some of us realize that that's not always the right answer. And this is the difference between leaders who are stuck in leadership land and management land, you know. Leaders who are stuck in leadership land are always going to go with their gut. Like this, yeah, this is right. This feels right. Let's go. But a strategic leader, a great boss, is going to say, but let me look at the data to back that up. Let me talk to some of my employees before I jump in here and make sure that the assumptions that I'm making are correct, because maybe they're not. You know, so it's taking care of both those things. That's what we're looking for here. Not just what I think is right, but also what data, what backs that up, talking to employees and making sure that everyone's with you on that. When leading at a higher level, you understand that decisions have to be made considering all factors, not just one or the other. You know, there are people who look at the data and make a decision just based from that. But you know, if your head's telling you, oh, I think we should do this, I think it needs to be considered as well, right? Right. So conceive. Under the conceive model for the competencies, here's what I would say to summarize. First, be willing to explore. What does the future hold? What do we see for our future? What can we do? I mean, organizations who have explored and come up with crazy things are now doing amazing things. Probably the example of that I love to talk about the most, because I love coffee, is Starbucks. I mean, you know the Starbucks story. They started out with one little tiny coffee shop in Seattle. They charged $3 for a cup of coffee when you could buy it for 50 cents around the corner on any street corner, because they wanted to create an experience where people could come in, have coffee, hang out, talk to each other. It was a ridiculous idea, but their leaders had vision. They explored, they were bold with their vision. We're going to go for it. But they did their homework. They tested assumptions. They looked at what was going on and what people wanted. You know, did a lot of surveying, a lot of talking to people, focus groups. What do you want when you come to a coffee shop? You know, what would work for you? It wasn't just, I think this will be cool. A lot more went into it than that. So explore and be bold, but test your assumptions. You know, you go out and talk to your employees about some of these things and find out that you're completely off base. You come up with a vision that will completely bankrupt the company in 2 months flat. You need to check those things before you just jump in. So that's the conceive piece. Let's look at the believe piece. And this one, believe, you know, it means to have confidence in the truth, the existence, the reliability of something. Patrick Lencioni, I think, probably said this best. He said, if people don't have an opportunity to weigh in, you can't expect them to buy in. If you want them to buy in, they have to have an opportunity to weigh in. And I think this is really a lot of what we're talking about, getting everybody on the same path. And we're going to go into depth on this one next week a little more, but getting everybody to line up behind what we've agreed to do, making sure that they believe in it, that we're going in the right direction, that everybody's on board. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of people doing hard work in different directions. And we really want everybody to be moving in the same direction. So how does this work as far as our competencies go? Well, great leaders, they gain power through personal influence, and managers do it in large through their position and authority. Now, if you've ever worked with leaders like this, which I imagine maybe you have, you know that when you're leading at a higher level, that bosses that understand positional power will not work to bring out the best employees are the ones that succeed. It's not about your position, and people who just rely on their position, these bosses who I'm the boss and therefore you will, that's not going to work long term, right? That's not going to work long term. It makes people resentful. It turns people off. Sabotage often results in that. So what we're looking for in this are bosses who understand that, yeah, you have the positional power, but it's a lot more than positional power. It's being credible and having people believe in you and be part of you. And in large part, this is by being clear about what you're doing. And communication, again, being clear. Clarity, so important. Great leaders build success through employee commitment. Great managers build success through employee compliance. Yeah, we can make people do stuff, right? And these are the different competencies. When you're a manager, you enforce. You know, we have this, you have to do this in order to stay employed, so do this, you know. Great leaders build success through commitment. Again, there's a time and a place for both, and we have to know which one to use. When leading at a higher level, bosses understand commitment is a much greater motivator than compliance. If we use commitment as a motivator, we won't have to have those managers in there necessarily being so worried about compliance, because people will believe in what we're doing. They'll want to be a part of it. They'll understand their purpose. They'll know where we're going, and they'll want to do it. They want to be a part of it. If you've ever worked in an organization that has that kind of synergy, where everybody is so super excited about what we're doing that they can't wait to get to work and work on it, then you know what I'm talking about. And this is what we're trying to create when we're a higher level boss. People who are so excited about it that they want to do it. Now, let me just qualify that all this is based on everything we talked about with conceive first, that you've given thought to your vision, to your direction, and you've gotten buy-in from your folks. You've tested assumptions. You've made sure that they believe this is the right thing to do. Can't tell you how many managers get themselves and leaders in a really deep hole because they don't take the time to make sure that their employees believe in the same things that they're preaching. And, you know, sometimes it's just not the right fit. You've probably seen that too. You know, sometimes an employee is just not in the right place. And that's why we have to be so clear about what we're trying to accomplish. Great leaders use a transformational communication style. Great managers use a transactional communication style. If you are a parent, I don't think I need to say anything more. If you're a parent, you know that we do a lot better communicating with our children when we go from this transformational communication style. My niece has a just turned 3-year-old, just turned 3, and her conversations every day are, you have a choice. You can do this, or you can go to your room and be in timeout. You know, that's a transformational style. You know, giving people a choice, having them be a part of it. A transactional style is stop that now, or you're going to die. You know, stop that now, or I'm going to kill you. You know, you have to stop it. You know, is much more demanding. So what we're looking for here is really to include people as we communicate, to have them be a part of it, and not just do this, do this, do this. Even the military, who is famous for a transactional communication style, has embraced this, as they're now, they care a lot more about what people think, and they want people to have dialogue, you know, dialogue where both parties give input, both parties are a part of the conversation. And that's what we're looking for here, is that we're communicating, not just telling you what you have to do. When leading at a higher level, we understand that the transformational communication is going to result in clarity. And I just put this quote here because I really love this. Could a greater miracle take place than for us to look through each other's eyes, even for an instant? This is empathy. And we know that empathy is a very valued trait in bosses. You know, empathy. Not sympathy, but empathy. You understand their point of view, whether it's your customer or your employee. You know, words like, I see your point of view. You're saying, and they're repeating back, or I hear what you're saying. You feel we should do this. or I can see that this really upsets you. You're saying that we should give you a raise, that you've earned it. So just kind of acknowledging feelings, really important part of transformational communication. So this is our believe piece. And remember, we're going to go into these things more in depth throughout the series. But what we've talked about here is explaining clearly. Clarity is very important, that everybody understands what we're talking about here, that you've shared with them, openly asked their opinion, and empowered them then to move forward with you. Everybody's going in the same direction. Everybody wants to accomplish the same things. And then finally in our model, we have achieve, because all of this is really great unless you do nothing with it. See, that's the interesting thing about this model. You have to have all three pieces. First, you have to have a vision, and you have to have alignment behind the vision so that everybody wants to go, and then you have to do something about it. If you leave any piece of that out, you're not going to make it. If we're not clear on the vision, but we all believe in it, what do you believe in? Chances are people are believing in different things. You can't do that, or if you're really clear on your vision and you say, go do it, and people don't believe in it, we're still not going to get anywhere. And if everybody is clear and everybody believes in it, but we don't take care of the back end and make sure that we actually accomplish what we're trying to accomplish, it still doesn't work. So we have to do all of these things. So with this one, we should know the competency is that great leaders develop vision and strategies to achieve it, where great managers plan, budget, and design detailed steps. We need both of those, right? We've got to have a vision and the strategies to achieve it. And we need somebody, just like my story with the pastor, somebody's got to do the plan, budget, design the detailed steps so that we actually accomplish it. You can see how those go hand in hand. When leading at a higher level, bosses understand vision and strategy are ineffective without execution. And this is kind of a hard one because it involves constantly monitoring what's going on and making sure that you address problems when you see a problem. A lot of us don't like to address problems because, we like a harmonious work environment. It's really nice when everything is calm and cool. But a good boss here, the leader manager, understands that there are times when, we got to give that feedback. We've got to address those problems. Great leaders plan strategy, and the great managers are planning tactics. Of course, right? We have to know exactly how to get there, but leaders don't necessarily do that. They plan the strategy, but somebody's got to say, exactly how does this work? What's the process? What's the procedure? So when you're leading at that higher level, understand strategy is the action plan that will take us where we want to go. Tactics are the steps that are going to get us there, right? We need that. Strategy comes first. Tactics, though, can be adjusted easily to correct the course if we find that we need it. All right. So that's achieve. And here, what we've talked about is laying out the plan, making sure that people know there's a plan, laying it out, addressing problems, and then checking the progress to make sure that we are addressing those problems. One of the things I just want to tell you about all of this, because, as we talk through the series, it sounds like a lot. But golly gee, if you are a manager or a leader, it is a lot. Right? I'm not kidding you. But what I want you to understand is that great leaders and great managers don't have to be able to do everything. But they have to know that these things have to be done. They have to know the basis of these things: conceiving, believing, and achieving. And sometimes it means all those people that work for you, remember, the job is to get the work done through others. Maybe you hate writing a strategic plan, but you have somebody on your staff who loves writing a strategic plan. What a great opportunity for you to lead them through the process of doing this awful thing that you hate and giving them an opportunity to do something that they love. So this is an awareness of everything that has to be done, but not necessarily the ability to do everything. I hate to tell you this, we can't do everything. We're not good at everything. We have our strengths, we have our challenges. But if you understand that your job is to get the job done through others, and you're leading this team of people so that you understand their strengths, it is possible to do it all. Isn't that good news? I think that's really good news. I love it. Know this, if employees don't like their bosses, they'll leave. Even when the pay is good, even when they get recognition, even if they have opportunities to learn and grow. And why do we like our bosses? We like our bosses because they treat us like equals. They care what we think. They're clear with us about what the expectations are. They ask us if these expectations are possible and get our input on how to do it and how to move forward. They provide encouragement, inspiration, appreciation, and help us all to achieve the results that we're trying to achieve.